Can you even remember the last time Silent Hill and Resident Evil were competing with releases? Oh god. Well, okay. Alright. Remember the time when they were both good? Well, hopefully we're in for a horror renaissance as both Konami and Capcom decided to make several announcements 24 hours apart in this spooktacular Spooktober. Some announcements are more exciting than others, but let's just go through each one, case by case. Silent Hill 2 Remake. Who could not be excited to hear that Masahiro Ito and Akira Yamaoka were involved? And who the hell is this developer working on it? Blooper Team? That's a name that would strike confidence. They're known for the Blair Witch game and Lair of Fear series, with their most acclaimed game being The Observer. I know there's a lot of trepidation when another developer steps into a franchise, especially those who are known for not being subtle in their storytelling and degraded for creating mostly walking sims. But there is a template to follow. Just play the PS2 game, just copy someone else's homework, and you literally have access to the old guard at Konami. Due to it being that spooky time of the year, I replayed the original 3 Silent Hills. I have to say, 2 and 3 really held up graphically considering they were PS2 games. I really wished it was the first game that was being remade as it seemed to need it the most. But if you were to ask me which game remake would be successful in terms of sales, accolades, and general fan recognition, I can't pretend that wasn't the best choice. PS5 exclusive, which you already know people are going to be upset about, but probably a timed exclusive, I'm willing to bet. Silent Hill Townfall. This teaser gives us nothing to work with, so let's look to the developer, No Code. They've worked on Stories Untold and Observation, both puzzle games beloved by their fanbases, so that'll probably be what this thing is, I suppose. Silent Hill Ascension. It is some sort of interactive live stream experience, which I mean, these teaser trailers are really giving us nothing to work with. Lots of companies working on this thing: D2J Entertainment, Genvid, Bad Robot Games, and Behavior Interactive. Which that last one, I was like, oh, this is a Dead by Daylight announcement? But no, this is a weird experimental thing. J.J. Abrams' involvement is being made a big deal of, but I mean, it's just his studio, Bad Robot. He'll likely not be shoving his mystery boxes anywhere near here. It's not as if he's working on a film adaptation of Silent Hill. Return to Silent Hill, which will be a film adaptation of Silent Hill 2. Never watched the 2 films, just knew most considered them terrible. Though I also heard fans had a fondness of the first film, so might check it out just for the heck of it. I think a lot of the horror derived from Silent Hill 2 is the fact that it's a video game. Just an example, early on in the apartment complex, you have to control James as he needs to walk ever closer to Pyramid Head, and this can be so unnerving because you don't know how this thing is going to act, especially when you're seeing it for the first time. Something like that literally cannot be replicated in film, but it's obvious they'll just need to find a different approach, and I hope we can avoid just the key jangling references to the original game. Silent Hill F. Very Japanese, which was surprising they decided to deviate from the original inspirations, the Stephen King's American Small Town. But it's fine, I mean, Silent Hill doesn't need to be a literal place or time, as this will take place in the 1960s, and even as far back as Silent Hill 3, which also changed the setting, albeit this is the most the series has ever diverged. Neobard's Entertainment does not evoke confidence. Most notable work, Resident Evil Resistance. Everyone seems to be freaking out over the story writer, Ryukishi07, who worked on Higurashi and Umineko. I think they're signaling in the trailer that this game will maintain the original combat. We see this girl carrying a metal pipe. Also notable in the trailer, we see these vines and flowers overtaking the town and end on a shot that is clearly a homage to Midsummer. Or at least I hope the creators intended it to be. I mean, that's what it clearly is, right? This might give us some insight into what the game is aiming for, as that film followed people who were invited into a commune, and this cult slowly revealing their disturbing practices. Or, you know, this could be just a cool visual. Also, just a random thought, that this part of the teaser was going to be the in-game death animation, which would be cool. Either way, this is my most anticipated Silent Hill project. as I can always go back and play Silent Hill 2, but I also understand there are those not willing to go out of their way. I know there is a Silent Hills-shaped cloud over these announcements that lingers, but I would still take this as a good sign that Konami is going out of their way to appease fans. Konami, without Metal Gear or Silent Hill, apparently enjoyed about 5 or 6 years of financial growth. I guess all those pachinko machines and Yu-Gi-Oh! Really paid off. If they wanted to play it safe, they could have just dipped their foot in the water with the Silent Hill 2 remake, but all these other game announcements makes me think this is a genuine attempt to rejuvenate the franchise. And also, make you try to forget everything about Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro. Who? What? But have you seen this new thing, though? Resident Evil. Resident Evil also had a few announcements. Resident Evil Village Gold Edition adds DLC that includes third-person camera mode. I thought it would be a bit clunky from the looks of the trailer, but there's a demo out already and it looks great. A lot similar to Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes, obviously the same engine. Definitely a reason to go back, if just for the novelty. The DLC also adds Rose as the main character of her own story, which presumably picks up right where Village left off. Top that off with new content for Mercenaries mode, and a release date of October 28th. Reverse, or Resident Evil Verse, is a asymmetrical multiplayer game. Well, whatever, I hate multiplayer games because I have no friends. Also, it seemed like the last attempt at something like this, Resistance, was widely criticized too. Not a lot of high hopes there. Seems like Capcom is stretching themselves a bit thin with these multiplayer Resident Evil games. Not personally as excited for all these RE announcements so far, but the Resident Evil 4 remake is a completely different story. Completely hyped up for that, and I think Capcom has an understanding of this game's legacy and is treating it with a deft touch. The RE3 remake was also a bit of a letdown, cutting out content, and Nemesis was not nearly as menacing of a monster stalker as Mr. X, relegated mostly to set pieces, but I think the developers showing off the village scene was a good impression that this isn't going to stray too far, and hopefully only add improvements. While it's nice to see they incorporated the knife to defend yourself, apart from the chainsaw, I suppose, which is a bit ridiculous, and then you'll have some people making arguments, oh, the whole game's ridiculous, so it's fine. But sidestepping that whole conversation, I hope it's just an instant break, because the tension is just going to be completely lost if you can do that 3 or 4 times with the same knife. And if I did have other criticisms, what the hell is with Ada's voice?
You can stop right there.
Not the least bit intimidating or confident as she once was. I think Ashley was more intimidating by comparison. And Louise seems to be in this mangled Monster Mash face competition with James Sunderland. And that's all of them. Or at least the ones I cared to talk about. If I missed anything, oh well, my screw up. Kinda take Capcom for granted because Resident Evil has been around for so long and has never really left the same way Silent Hill has. Konami is not a company I think a lot of people have faith in nowadays. And so it's good to see they just entirely outsourced all their projects. If these games end up being as good as the hype makes them out to be, I think it's worth buying. Now, understanding though that some might see this as, forgiveness or support for Konami after the terrible things that have come to light. But unfortunately, they're just gonna continue to hold the IP and they can just let the series go dormant again for another 10 years or however long. Like I said, Konami won't live or die on Silent Hill. They were doing better without it, so it's really up to, the individual consumer to decide, oh, this is something I'm interested in, yeah, I'll go ahead and pick it up. And also keeping in mind you're supporting the developer, right? If this game does well, that's more projects for them. That's more accolades for the developer themselves too. So if you want to look at it in a better way, if you're a huge Neobards Entertainment fan, I don't know. I suppose I'll just end this by asking if you're looking forward to any Silent Hill or Resident Evil game, if any at all. That's all for now.